Let us pray. Gracious God, thank you for how creatively you deal with your beloved people. Please give us a sense of expectation for your Spirit's work and the discernment to recognize it, even in surprising forms. We ask that you will help us to apply everything we've learned and discerned through your Spirit, through your word and your strength. Help us to pray. Help us to love, to spend time in prayer with you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Mhm. Thank you, Chris. I think Drew is gonna display our
Yes.
slides.
Pulling that up.
Sandy, did you want to go over a couple of housekeeping,
Oh,
Zoom
right,
housekeeping?
you're up. That's
Okay.
right. So go ahead.
So we just wanted to let you know that if you could remain on mute until the breakout rooms. There will be a point after the presentation that you will be moved into a pre-assigned breakout room. We want you to feel confident that if you don't see yourself moving, that we will get you to where you need to go. You'll drop into the breakout room and there will be time for discussion. And then you'll receive a notice about 5 minutes in, 5 minutes left, and then a minute left, and then you'll move back into the main group. And I also wanted to say that tonight, thank you the people for assisting with tech, and that's Sandy Millian, Steve Baker, Sarah Stone Cipher Boylan, and we have other staff with us: Nicole Free, Luke Zara, Chad Linder, and Paula Lipinski. Did I miss anyone, Sandy? I don't think so. Please use the chat if you have questions.
Melinda Artman too.
Oh, Melinda Artman. Yes, thank you, Bishop Kevin. Please use the chat if you need to ask a question. I see a question coming in now, so that's great. We will answer you. And like I said, if anyone gets lost in the shuffle, we'll help you get back. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I turn it over to Drew.
I think I'm up before Drew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. For those that don't know me, my name is Sandy Millian. I am the Canon for Racial Reconciliation and Community Engagement, as well as assistant to the bishop in the Diocese of Bethlehem. And we want to thank all of you for being here tonight. Just a couple things about our gathering tonight. Tonight it's an opportunity to hear updates from our Reunification Discernment Committee, to share your questions, concerns, possibilities with the committee members and with one another, and also to meet folks from the different dioceses. After the presentation, we'll have a large presentation with the large group right here for about 20 minutes, and you'll hear a little bit more detail about the work the committee has done. After that, as Alexis said, we will move into breakout rooms for conversation for about 35 minutes. And you'll be with members from the committee and other staff members. And then we will return to the full group to hear a brief recap of our time together in our breakout rooms before we close with a prayer and farewell. So Drew, you are up.
Great, thank you very much. So hi everyone, I'm Drew Dorgan. I'm on the Diocesan Reunification Discernment Committee, and I'm with the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania. So we're going to run through a little bit of history of how we got here. It started 2 years ago, if you can believe that, in October of 2022, when we adopted a resolution at our conventions. And we've moved through our work together as this committee, expanding as needed. So in October of last year, we decided that we needed more time to prepare. I think at that point we had done a lot of research. We had a lot of facts in front of us, but we really did not know which way to go and what we wanted to do. So we asked for another year to prepare recommendations regarding reunification to be presented this fall. We divided our work into various phases. We spent the last year in phases 1 and 2 of our process, and this year we've been working on phase 3 and phase 4. So throughout the process, we've published lots of regular updates. I hope you've all seen them. If you haven't found the Diocesan Reunification site, which Sandy and Alexis keep putting in the chat for me, so the link is there. But you can also go to your diocesan website and drill down and look for the link to the reunification website. But we've published updates with parochial data from our congregations, data about our research on other Episcopal dioceses in similar processes. We've published financial summaries of both dioceses. We've published information on the ministry of the episcopate in our diocese and about a lot of information about shared ministries throughout. So now we're looking for more information in these listening sessions, and we've developed a system too on the website that you can offer up feedback as well. So feel free, if you think of something after tonight and you want to put it in somewhere, you can send it through the feedback system and we'll all get it. So let's look at our timeline. If we decide to reunify, we would vote on that in October at our convention, our joint conventions this year, sort of a joint and separate convention. So we're having these town halls, gathering more input for our models, more questions that need to be answered, continuing to just look for what is it that we need to offer up in terms of all the research we've done to all of you. In August, we're going to integrate that feedback and publish pre-convention materials. Again, more materials like our FAQs or our convention report. In September, we'll do pre-convention meetings at our convocations in both dioceses where we'll present this material and be available to answer additional questions should you have them, or take in additional comments as well. If we do decide to reunify, and the vote is positive by both dioceses, we would do that at our joint convention, and then 2025 would become a year of transition. So there's lots of work to be done in the transition, lots of finalizing things, but we would still operate as separate dioceses with separate budgets. And then we would become one in January of 2026. So Doug?
Hi, I'm Doug Moyer. I'm currently the president of the standing committee in the Diocese of Bethlehem, and I also serve on the reunification discernment group. So why reunification? There's really three main reasons why we think reunification makes a lot of sense. One is the data, and we're talking about both financial, attendance, shrinking membership, and clergy, less clergy. And while it may be painful to acknowledge the changes that we've gone through, it is indeed what's happening. And so to deny that doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you were running another business, for example, and you saw all of this data, you would say, we've got to change something. To continue down this path doesn't make sense. The second reason is better stewardship. We can carry on as we are and simply collaborate, but we'll continue to deplete our resources, and not just financial, but human as well. I know in the Diocese of Bethlehem, it is often difficult for us to get enough people to serve on our various committees, the standing committee, diocesan council. So as one diocese, we would have a greater resources to pull from, more people that could help us with that. And so we have to face the challenges that are before us, whether we stay separate or we reunify. So the question is whether we can face them better together as one or separately. And I believe we'd be better as one. I'm going to give you a little, this isn't part of the script. When I was in seminary, I went to seminary in the state of Wisconsin. That's where my seminary was. And Wisconsin had 3 dioceses. One of those dioceses, the two of the northern dioceses went through this same process to reunify, and they missed by doing it by one vote. That was 15 to 18 years ago. This past year, the entire state of Wisconsin reunified. So we can, and that one diocese did it out of desperation. The other two were still strong enough that they could have stayed separate, but realized it didn't make sense to wait until they were like the diocese that was desperate. I believe that applies to us. We're not doing this out of strength of weakness, but out of strength, and we should do that while we can, rather than make decisions in desperation.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. George Park with Diocese of Central Pennsylvania, member of the Reunification Discernment Committee. So adding on to Doug's earlier point, why reunify now? Looking at it, so the Episcopal Church will be here tomorrow. So, as the slide notes, reunification is the work we do now, but it's really setting the foundation for the sake of the Episcopal Church beyond our lifespan and for future generations. Someone on the committee at one point made a statement, and it really resonated and stuck with me. And it was the point around, we're planting a tree today for future generations. We may not see the shade of that tree, but we're making sure that it's here for those future generations to enjoy the shade and the fruits that are being produced. So the movement of reunification, it's really grounded in love for our church. It's the gratitude for our church and for those who have served and given for generations. And again, planting those seeds and for the future. We can keep the heart of the traditions alive and better serve the world that's hungry for the good news that Episcopalians have to share. Important point, we aren't in crisis yet. We can still be creative about how we do this. We have the resources, the strengths, the potentials to help us adapt well, and our coming together can really create an opportunity where we're filled with gratitude and inspiration and inspire hope. Drew, next slide. So presiding Bishop-elect Sean Rowe at the 81st General Convention of the Episcopal Church noted, people in our region are resilient, but we spent years resisting the change that was forced on us, wishing things that would go back to being the way they had been. It is not always easy, but I believe that the kind of collaboration and experimentation we were up to can help us ensure the strong and effective witness, the gospel of Jesus Christ, and to bring the Episcopal Church into the future to which God is calling us. And that's the work that we're really trying to accomplish through this process, and hope that the presentation today will help explain more of that.
Hi, I'm Deacon Rodney Kahn. I'm at the Cathedral here in Diocese of Bethlehem. I'll be talking to you about the regional structure and so forth. Taking a look at our current structure, this was, and I should comment that we were one diocese at one time, and this was the original Central Pennsylvania Diocese. And then when we split, this became the diocese of, eventually the Diocese of Bethlehem, and then the Diocese of Harrisburg, which then later on took on the name of Central Pennsylvania. So you can see that while Central Pennsylvania is a little larger, if you count up the number of parishes, we're relatively the same size. And we're in a convocation structure on both dioceses. So if you go to the next slide, splitting up those convocations somewhat evenly in number of parishes, this would be a regional structure. The Diocese of Bethlehem currently has a canon missioner for the north and the south. We have the cathedral in the south and a pro-cathedral in the north, very much like Central Pennsylvania has a cathedral in the south and a pro-cathedral in the north, as well as currently a canon missioner in the northern part, in the northern tier. This structure here would align things a little bit better. The only major change that you might see is the County of Lebanon, which only affects one parish, would move into the southwest region, because quite frankly, they're much closer to multiple parishes in that part of the world than it is in over in this way. So if you go to the next slide, please. So this basically lets you know how the convocations, number of parishes, and the cathedral, pro-cathedral are laid out. Basically, a northwest, northeast, and a southwest and a southeast. Not terribly creative names, but they certainly describe how everything is put together and where everybody's going to be at to help support each other for both the parishes, but also with canon missioners and also taking care of things that need to happen at the diocesan level. Thank you.
Hello, this is Michael Miller. I'm the Chancellor, Diocese of Central Pennsylvania. I'm also on the committee working on Constitution and canons for a reunified diocese. It's important to note that a couple of things. One is the two dioceses have very, very similar canons and constitutions. So the majority of those things are not difficult to reconcile. We have about 8 articles currently. We've met, I think, 4 or 5 times. And look, here's the good news. 5 lawyers have met 5 times, and we only have 8 items that we want to get some further clarity on from the bishops. That's got to be a world record. And these articles that we want clarification on are not anything earth-shattering. So the standing committee, I think in Dio-Beth has 12 and CPA has 8, or I may have it reversed because I don't have my notes exactly in front of me. And we want to sit down with the bishops and talk about what the correct number that we recommend to a rejoin diocese ought to be. And so none of these things, as we go through them, they're all in that kind of nature of that circumstance. And what we're really trying to do is put together a framework that people can take a look at and kick the tires on. And as you'll find out as we talk about this further, the idea is to provide a draft of a constitution and canons that both dioceses and their chancellors and assistant chancellors have worked on for people to take a look at as we consider whether to reunify, and then we will further take a look at and refine if we decide to reunify. Nothing will be changed automatically or quickly, and nothing really about the working of either diocese will change dramatically because of the similarities in all those documents. Drew, is there another slide? I think then I will let that go to Jim, I guess.
Back to Kevin, I think. Bishop Kevin.
Back to Kevin. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, Kevin Nichols, Bishop of the Diocese of Bethlehem. And on behalf of Jim Jenkins, Deacon Jim Jenkins, I'm going to offer the report on stewardship and financial resources. So budgeting and apportionment for a reunified diocese, this I think is of a great deal of interest. I will tell you that apportionment at General Convention was of a great deal of interest. Currently, I think folks know that 15% is a number across the wider church in terms of apportionment. But at a diocesan level, we actually are at some of the lowest levels of apportionment across the church. The Diocese of Bethlehem has a 12% apportionment with a 3% optional acceptance, and the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania has a 10% apportionment on the first 200,000 and then 2% for additional income. What Jim and others are doing on the team is to really look at these numbers and to try to gauge how we can get to the lowest possible level of apportionment and still maintain what we need in terms of staffing and ministry and justice ministries. So the reunification model that we're looking towards at the current moment would be within 1% of current practices. For 2026, figuring annual inflation and no staffing changes, we would have about a $3.5 million budget for a reunified diocese. And if we remain separate using the same processes or modeling or budgets, it would actually be 4.1 million. So you can see a significant savings that's being initially brought forth by folks who are taking the first look at this of about 600,000 or 14%. So, as was mentioned earlier, 2025 will be a transition year, which means that both of the budgets coming from each diocese at our convention will be separate budgets. So we will continue to function as we have been generally for 2025. And during that time, we would form a joint finance committee. Both dioceses have tremendous folks already doing some of the planning and structuring for our finances and our resources and our investments. They would come together to form a unified committee during that time and help to develop a budget for 2026 and probably have a clearer sense of what that number might look like in terms of apportionment. 2026, we would be a reunified diocese. So the apportionment goal, again, within 1% of current practices. We would also, we believe, see savings by reducing or moving away from a duplications of systems and processes, software, some office expenses, multiple events that are held separately could be held jointly. And then staffing would be a hybrid model of centralized and dispersed, and there would be associated costs with that. As some of you know, in the Diocese of Bethlehem, we're already looking at a shifting of our diocesan offices as there's a growing need for a local nonprofit entity that was an offshoot of the Diocese of Bethlehem, New Bethany, to assume our office space currently and maybe to take that over entirely. So there will be options in terms of resources for the future. And I think, as the team has mentioned before, and I encourage you to go to the FAQ to check out the resources on our reunification website, but our dioceses have similar financial resources. Neither diocese has significant indebtedness other than funds that are held on behalf of parishes, and we're very similar in terms of membership, the number of parishes, our staffing. Although staffing, we have some wish lists. Also, in the Diocese of Bethlehem, we don't have the benefit of a communications person nor a youth person, which is something that they have in the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania. So there could be a sharing of resources and ministries that we think makes good sense.
Thank you, Bishop Nichols. My name's Audrey Scanlon. I'm the Bishop of Central Pennsylvania, and I'm here to talk with you a little bit about the ministry of the episcopate. That, of course, refers to how do we think it's going to work with our bishops in this deal. So one of the things that the canons is very clear on is that when you have one diocese, you have one diocesan bishop. You can have assisting bishops, you can have assistant bishops, you can have suffragan bishops, but when you have one diocese, you have one diocesan bishop. In our timeline, we've talked about spending 2025 as a transitional year in which both Bishop Nichols and I would remain diocesan bishops of our current home diocese. But as of January 2026, one of us would become the diocesan and one would become the assistant. Now, we're still trying to figure out if we should do arm wrestling or rock, paper, scissors to decide who that's going to be. But truthfully, a lot of it has to do with our different timelines. I have a timeline that I've talked about for some time now of retiring in 2027. And Bishop Nichols, his timeline is less clear at this point. So as those things get worked out, we'll decide who would be the diocesan and who would be the assistant. The good news is that Kevin and I work really well together, and we enjoy each other's company, and this is not, at least in my estimation, anything that would be a sticking point at all. Next slide, please. And so some of the bigger questions that come under the area of the bishop's purview is, of course, visitations, determining what kind of staff there would be for reunified diocese, and talking a little bit about the culture. So in terms of visitations, as long as we have two bishops, we could probably continue in Diocese of Central Pennsylvania. We're on a 2-year schedule right now. That would not change in the immediate future. If we were to move to a one bishop system, then our canons allow for a visit every 3 years. But we've also been talking about developing something called a regional residency, where the bishop and some members of the staff would go set up camp. I actually was up in the northern tier from Friday morning until Sunday late afternoon this weekend, and got to do a lot more than just visit a parish. I went on a holy hike. We had a community supper. I spent some time at our retreat house with another group of folks. So regional visitations are another way for a bishop to kind of get embedded in the neighborhood. In terms of staffing, we have learned in the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania, taken a note from Diobeth with a regional or dispersed staffing model, where not everybody comes into the home office every day. And certainly COVID taught us quite a bit about that as well. So it would be our hope that we would have a staff that would be sprinkled throughout the larger geographic area and be responsible for those 4 regions that Rodney was talking about. Bishop Nichols spoke a little bit about the diocesan culture, and it is true. We're about the same size. We have about the same number of people. We have about the same bank account. And so, and we have honestly a lot of the same demographics, and also, I would say, sort of the regional flair that I learned about when I moved here to Pennsylvania. So we don't anticipate any great shifts in trying to marry our 2 cultures together. So there will be some letting go. Here's a few of the things that we've want to highlight with you. That if we become one diocese, we will have one body of deputies that we elect to General Convention. So we will not have 2 teams going to General Convention, we'll have one. Some of the ways that we're used to doing things will just change, mostly because we'll be dispersed and we'll be across a greater landmass. So we need to recognize that not everything's going to stay exactly the same. We will have a new name. We're still thinking about what that might be, and I think we will be inviting your input. And eventually, Kevin and I are going to retire and move on, which really offers a great opportunity for a reunified diocese to call a bishop of your own to this new diocese. So I think that's really exciting. And now I think we're up to Jane, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, good evening. No, sorry.
I'm sorry, is this
Okay,
me?
this is yours, yes.
This is me, I'm trying to pass off my slides. Here we go. So this last slide is Kevin and I were reflecting a little bit about the call of a bishop. One of the things that we've talked about is that the call of a bishop, while it is to a specific diocese, it's also to serve as a minister for the wider church. We take vows to guard the faith, the unity, and the discipline of the church, to keep the ship afloat, if you will, and moving as efficiently as it can. and as faithfully as it can. And so we believe that doing this work of discernment that we've been doing is actually part of our call. As bishops, we see our current model of diocese is time limited. We're closing 1 or 2 churches per year in each place. And so we want our Episcopal tradition to continue. Reunification offers an opportunity for us to come together and renew for the sake of who we are as Episcopalians. So now I'm going to pass it off.
Good evening. I'm Deacon Jane from Central Pennsylvania. I serve on the Reunification Committee along with Chris Sutton as one of the chaplains. And I have a lot of exciting things to share with you this evening. Great news is we already have the blessing of collaborating with each other across the diocesan lines. This has been going on. It predates actually the formal discussions and then the formation of the Reunification Committee. The Stevenson School for quite a few years has been having folks who are looking for discernment as far as ordination or lay ministry have attended the Stevenson School for Ministry. I had the privilege of teaching several classes and had some of your deacons in my class. We've joined together for pride events, for commission of ministry discussions. VELI is Vital Effective Leadership Institute, where folks who are heading up a parish on their own for the first time meet together for a length of time for learning and discussion. And we're learning that this impact is actually greater than we thought it might be. It's wonderful to meet folks that are engaged in similar ministries and we're in different dioceses. So I find it exciting and encouraging that we're already doing this. Our greater mission beyond diocesan lines is that we are, as Episcopalians, committed to carrying out the work of Jesus and the mission in the church. And one of the ways that the 2 dioceses have worked together is medical debt relief. One of our parishes joined with one from Diocese of Bethlehem and raised money to help reduce the medical debt for folks. And again, this is just one example of the hope that we have and the strength we have in reaching across the lines to help each other. There's more people involved, more resources to use when we work together in some of these events. And the clergy conference. This was a fantastic 48 hours that the clergy from both dioceses were together. We had a phenomenal speaker, Craig Loya from Minnesota. The bishop was with us. It was a great way sitting outside with a cold drink, talking to each other. Chris Sutton and I got the deacons together and we got to know each other better, found out about common ministries that we have. We're looking forward to having our deacons join together in the future for some events. Priests met other priests from similar parishes. We shared ministries, and it was wonderful to be together in a mostly informal setting and just share about our work and having the support from other people in similar ministries. So we're already working across these lines, and whatever we discern as the future, these kinds of joint collaborations and ministries aren't going to stop. I can see us continuing to work together because we do share this common ministry to be Christ in the world.
I want to kind of close out this portion of our presentation with words from Thomas Merton, though, that were shared with us by Bishop-elect Sean Rowe following his election at the 81st General Convention. And there we were gathered in Louisville, and the 4th and Walnut, 4th is now Ahmad Ali Way, I believe. And these words, I think, became a touchstone for us at the convention, and I think these words speak to us again this night. So join me. In a time of drastic change, one can be too preoccupied with what is ending or too obsessed with what seems to be beginning. In either case, one loses touch with the present and with its obscure but dynamic possibilities. What really matters is openness, readiness, attention, courage to face risk. You do not need to know precisely what is happening or exactly where it is all going. What you need is to recognize the possibilities and challenges offered by the present moment and to embrace them with courage, faith, and hope. In such an event, courage is the authentic form taken by love.
Sydney, I think you're
I
up.
am here. I'm Sydney White Crawford from the Diocese of Bethlehem and a member of the Reunification Discernment Committee. We are about to send everyone into breakout rooms where we want to answer questions, discuss possibilities, and maybe hear some of your concerns. There will be two members of the committee in each breakout room, one to lead the discussion and the other to take notes. And at the end of our 35 minutes together, we will come back as a group and see what our different breakout groups have come up with. So see you all in 35 minutes.
I think Alexis is going to send us into our rooms now.
Together, has Gio returned?
I am here.
Terrific. So please mute yourself if you're not already muted and take it over, Gio.
So first and foremost, just want to say thank you to everyone for being here this evening and also going through the breakout sessions. I know in our group we had some great dialogue, some great discussions going on. What I would like to do is just take a minute and ask each of the breakout rooms, someone that was either the note keeper or leading the group, just to give two or three closing thoughts or themes that they were seeing coming out of their breakout sessions. So group one, I don't know who wants to take the lead on that.
That's John's going to do that for group one.
John, are you with us?
Yeah, thanks. We had a good discussion. I'd like to talk really about questions that were raised. First was, how big an issue will distance be? And we've heard this question throughout all of our public sessions. And I think it's good to be reassured that we will have an organizational structure, for example, like canon missioners that will help. We strongly believe that regional ministries can and will flourish, and that we will be creative at moving big events from place to place around the new shape, so that distance should not become a problem. It is a fact, but it doesn't have to be a problem. Secondly, and this builds on that point, there was a sense of we will have new friends, partners, and opportunities for collaboration. Each diocese is already doing some things that the other diocese is not doing but would like to do. We really have an opportunity to move forward quite rapidly in the next 5 years. And then a question, will there be an opportunity for shared services? A person asked perhaps about central purchasing or resource sharing. We don't have a clear answer for that, except that we will have a kind of test bed for experimentation.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Group two, some thoughts, themes?
I think we are group two, I believe. Yes, Paul is giving me the yes. Thank you. So three themes that came up for us, like John just reported from his group, the issue of travel was brought up, especially around considering that we have aging members who may not be able to make it to conventions. So we talked about the ways that since COVID, we've been using Zoom for a lot of hybrid meetings and all Zoom meetings also. Convention being the one time, especially this time, when we don't think that we can do a hybrid option. We had lots of compliments on the presentation tonight, people feeling very reassured and informed, feeling that the material that's been presented was comprehensive. So feels like people are getting a sense that we are working through as many of the issues as we've been able to identify. And then the first comment of our evening was from a younger person, a 25-year-old person, who said, this is good because we need to think about the next generation. And I was so grateful for Carter's comment, because that is indeed one of the reasons that we're doing this, to preserve our church and our vitality for the future. So those were our themes.
Right. Thank you, Bishop Audrey. And then group 3.
That's us. We were a small but very mighty group. Just a couple of things, 2 concerns. I'll start with Barbara's concern about with all these changes, there's potential for people not feeling heard. And people are quite possessive of their own buildings and identities. So hoping there's a strategic way of dealing with the changes that will come if we end up reunifying. Then there was another concern about the decline in membership, and is there conversation in the committee about evangelism? Are there ways that we're thinking about growth of membership? And on the other hand, we talked about that we also see growth. Although there's membership decline, there are other ways we're seeing growth in both of our dioceses, and we should be celebrating the things that the blessings that we see in our day-to-day, the growth that we see here and there. And then a possibility for folks is more fellowship. Someone mentioned that in the Diocese of Bethlehem, our convocations are a little more, a little newer than Central Pennsylvania. So the shifting of convocations, if we end up reunifying, will allow for more fellowship, more energy, more people willing to do more things, and just a way to see the kingdom of God flourish. And to second what Bishop Audrey said, appreciation for all the graphics, the new graphics. They were very, very helpful for folks.
Great, thank you, Cindy. Yeah, and then group 4, that was our group, and we had some very good dialogue, and I think a lot of it really centers around opportunities. So opportunities as far as expanding as far as youth and youth involvement, youth ministry build out, looking at campus, college campus, and engaging with local colleges. Looking at how we can leverage against each other as far as from an opportunity standpoint, and taking and sharing some of the works that are happening between the 2 dioceses. There was conversation around the finances and around savings. Looking at, we talk about the model and the potential for 600,000 in savings, but where is that really coming from, and just kind of building that out a little bit, and what are the resources that would be contributing towards that? Are we considering the staffing resources and some of the other resources, and protecting those resources as we go through this model design? So maybe giving some more information around where those savings would truly stem from. And then a lot around geography, just as far as how the model will work, as far as the structure with the bishop and meeting and traveling and presence in the diocese. So there was talk about that as well.
There was also, in regards to travel, as Bishop Audrey in her group mentioned, not only just to conventions, because parishes could be pretty far away from conventions, and some parishes are going to have a difficult time, especially for elder parishioners, but also the assignment of deacons. Since deacons are assigned by the bishop, can a deacon that's serving in Bethlehem suddenly find themselves in State College? So that came up.
Yeah, and thank you, Doug. Yeah, and a lot of good conversation around what does that model look like as far as travel and presence in all the different areas. Leveraging technologies, realizing that we do have older members representing for some of the churches, and being cognizant of that. All right, group 5.
I believe that's us, and I think Ginny will give our report. Ginny, are you here?
Are you on mute, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Oh, she needs to unmute.
I was at the wrong icon, sorry. We had a really good discussion and some really good questions. One of them was, if we do go ahead and do this and someone leaves money to one diocese, will it stay in that diocese, or will it have to go to both dioceses? Another question was, we love our bishops and they seem to be very much in favor of this. And the person worried that when bishops speak, something usually happens. And is it a done deal? And another person wanted to know what happens to the DITs in both dioceses. And another one wanted to know the convocations. It seems that the regions are changed a bit, but will they still have the closeness that they've started to develop? And one question was, there's a school in central Pennsylvania, an Episcopal school in central Pennsylvania, but we didn't think there was one in Diabeth, and we weren't sure. We believe it's only one Episcopal church in central Pennsylvania. Another question was, what was the reason for separating to begin with? And as we know, that it was transportation, travel, that type of thing. And we threw out to them, what would the name of the diocese be? And like so many, they didn't realize that the Susquehanna River flows through both dioceses. So the Diocese of Susquehanna was brought up. And some people are concerned about new things, like they may see it one way and then suddenly flip and see it another way. So people are learning more and more with each town hall that we have, each meeting. And so I think some of the concerns that happened before, people are feeling a little more comfortable. Clergy do have some anxiety. Will they be rooted from their church? Will they have to leave their church? And what would the path be if one diocese says no and one diocese says yes? And another question that I think maybe Sydney can help me with, the one was, what other parts of church might play a role? The General Convention, the House of Bishops, and I needed a little help on that one, Sydney.
So I explained how we go if we do vote to reunify, that resolution goes to the bishops and standing committees of the church for approval. So
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you both. And then group 6.
Hello. Yes. So we also had a small group, but and I've heard some of the same sorts of comments already, certainly around the naming of the diocese. One question was about the use of the term reunification, that it sounded like it was more of a step backwards than a step forward. And I sort of explained that we're using that because that's the terminology used in the canons more than anything else, versus us having a choice of that or choosing to use that. There also was a question of whether or not we should be reaching out or have reached out to all the the diocese in the state of Pennsylvania as to whether or not that would make sense as well as to become one diocese across the state. Again, the between questions and talking, information is going to continue to flow out of the committee, out of this particular discussions, and that people were invited to check the reunification website, either through the link that's been shared or through the websites of the individual diocese. And one of the questions that was brought up as about parishes who might need to close. Is there a a sense of how many that might need to be, and how that might impact our finances and so forth into the future? And I think that pretty much covers the ones that weren't covered already.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it, Rodney. So, again, on behalf of the entire discernment committee, just want to take the opportunity to thank you all for taking time out of your evenings to listen to us this evening. I think coming through this session and coming through the session last week, there was a lot of great information that was being communicated in, and some great questions and dialogue, and we truly appreciate all your feedback and everything that you've offered this evening. I think that, as we look forward, our next steps are really going to be taking all this great information that we've gathered between the two sessions and then really reviewing it and then finalizing the proposals so that we can come to convention this fall. But also making sure that taking the questions and some of the comments from this evening and last week and answering those, look for more information on our discernment website. You'll see more information out there. You may see our FAQs build out further based on some of the feedback today and last week. Again, some great questions. And there were some direct, I know in our group, and I'm sure in others, there was some direct dialogue that's going to lead to some follow-up with people. Because there's some great opportunities to engage with some of you on a more direct communication. But again, so we'll be finalizing the proposals, looking to come to the convention for the fall. Our recommendations will come to all the lay and clergy delegates as pre-convention material reads, and we'll be walking through them at our pre-convention meetings. So we'll definitely step through everything and review that with you. Again, you'll see it in the chat, and you'll see it in communications that continue to go out. But we really encourage you to visit the reunification website for updates. Again, an updated FAQ will be coming out in early August. So a lot of that you'll see coming out of some of the dialogues and discussions tonight. So you may see one of your points come forward. So thank you for everything. Finally, I can't say enough. Please, please, please reach out to any of us with questions. We're here, we're available. We want to have dialogue. We want to have discussion. We want to understand what some of your concerns, your thoughts, and some of your great recommendations are. Our bishops, the members of the committee, we're very happy to respond to questions, whether it's through email. You can submit it through the reunification website, and we'd be happy to talk. I never miss the opportunity to talk. Just contact us. But again, just thank you for supporting the process and for engaging this possibility on future for potential reunification. So with that, I don't know, Bishop Audrey, Bishop Kevin, any closing thoughts before I turn it over to Chris to lead us in final prayer for this evening?
No, but thank you, Gio, and thank you everybody for being here. And as Gio said, we really do want to answer any questions you have. So go to our website. There's a form there where you can fill out any lingering questions that you have from tonight. Thank you. Kevin?
I just can't say enough for everyone who came and made this possible tonight, and especially for our staff and tech support who were here, who were just incredible. Thank you. Thank you all.
So with that, Chris, I'll ask you to lead us in a final prayer for this evening. Thank you.
I'd like to end our time together with this reminder. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the very presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And may the God of hope fill you all with all joy and peace in the faith, so that you overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Romans 15. Amen and good night.